Yeah, guys, I just wanted to announce that we have our Instagram account. It's at Matt Sam. That's MATTSSAM. The Instagram's been up for a week now, and I just want to thank all of you who gave me comments and suggestions. We really thank you a lot for your support and all your comments, so keep them coming. Also, I have a little bit of a cold today, so my voice has changed, but I'll be better next week. Thanks again, and I hope you enjoy the podcast. Up until the early 90s, the expression noise between floors was not very common in Korea, but it has become an issue that affects a huge number of households, more seriously than parking space problems. Compared to decades ago, most Koreans now live in multi-dwelling units, such as apartments or so-called officetels, where one house's floor becomes another one's ceiling. Noise made by children, especially their loud stomping, is known to be the biggest cause of auditory discomfort. But for those who don't have children, certain amount of noise is inevitable. Your upstairs neighbor may make noise by walking, dragging their chair across the floor, screaming, playing the TV and music too loud, dropping things, hammering, crying, fighting, drinking until 3 a.m., piano playing, singing, or running the washing machine late at night. We even hear about the extreme cases of people killing their upstairs or downstairs neighbor after long-lasting conflicts over noise issues. Some people, tired of noise from upstairs, turn to using noise-making gadgets to get revenge by annoying their neighbor upstairs. Fingers are pointed to the construction companies too. Many are suspicious that the issue has been worsened due to the construction companies cutting costs by not using required construction materials. Whatever the reasons are, as long as we have someone residing upstairs, we can't live in a completely quiet environment. Mattresses and/or soundproofing are eventually to no avail. The only solution is to be accustomed to living with a certain level of noise and be considerate of your neighbors and try to reduce the noise as much as possible. This podcast is dedicated to the family upstairs in apartment 401. Multifamily units in cities house the majority of the Korean population. You cannot escape the noise. So I said multifamily units in cities house the majority of the Korean population. So we use multifamily units. That can be anything from an apartment, walk-up/villa, anywhere where a lot of people live in kind of a big building. Is it called a multifamily unit? It can be big or small. But it doesn't mean a single house. And I said that these multifamily units house the majority of the Korean population. So to house someone can be used as a verb. So a house, and then housing is also a noun. But to house someone is to put someone in a house. So the apartments house the majority of the Korean population. Loud neighbors are a part of life in metro areas of Korea. The noise is amplified in apartment buildings. So I said the noise is amplified in apartment buildings. So, it's always kind of proper to use noise and amplification, but you can talk about if something is increased or getting bigger, you can use the verb amplified. And we also mentioned here multi-dwelling units and multifamily units. Sometimes the technical term can be MDU. Multi-dwelling units. We don't use it that often, but it's more for technical use, is an MDU. People are fighting back against the noise by directing sound at or banging on their ceilings to get their upstairs neighbors to stop. So I said people are fighting back against the noise. So you can fight back against someone physically. If someone punches you, you punch them back. But you could also do it alternatively if your upstairs neighbors are making noise. You can fight back by making noise. You're not attacking them. You're more attacking their ceiling. Or if you want to fight back against something larger like the government, you would vote in the opposite way the government wants you to vote. Or you can fight back against a company by not buying its products. So it doesn't have to be physical. It can also be kind of a metaphor for pushing back or not doing something. Downstairs neighbors have taken a stand by countering noise with noise. They do this by hitting the ceiling in hopes the upstairs neighbor will stop. So I said downstairs neighbors have taken a stand by countering noise with noise. So to take a stand means you are kind of tired of something and you don't want to put up with it anymore. And you are going to, again, fight back or resist what they're doing. And then to counter. So a counter means if someone is attacking you, you immediately attack back. We call it a counterattack. So first there's an attack. And then the second attack by you is called a counterattack. So if you're countering something, that means you are pushing back against it and you're fighting against it. So if the upstairs people make noise, the downstairs people make noise. That is countering something. And then they are hitting their ceiling in hopes the upstairs neighbor will stop. So if the upstairs neighbors are screaming, and you're using your broom in hopes they'll stop, you're hitting your ceiling, you're hoping that the noise will stop eventually. Outdated building requirements are to blame for the noise. Also, construction companies can save money by not making walls, ceilings, and floors with thicker material, which is the cause for noise between floors. Building codes do not require construction companies to make walls thicker and use insulation. This shoddy construction allows noise to travel throughout the building. On top of that, construction companies don't follow these low-level standards so they can increase their profits. So I said, building codes do not require construction companies to make walls thicker and use insulation. Building codes are, in the United States, they vary from region to region, state to state. For example, in Southern California, the building codes are very strict. So a building code is how a building should be built, how thick the wall should be. So in Southern California, where there are lots of earthquakes, the building codes might be different than in Northern California, where there are no earthquakes. But what we're saying is the building codes in Korea don't require construction companies to make the walls thick and use what we call insulation. Insulation is kind of a very thick, spongy material, and it blocks sound, but also keeps in heat in the winter and keeps cool in the summer, keeps hot out in the summer and cold out in the winter. So a lot of buildings in the United States are made with insulation. And then I said, this shoddy construction allows noise to travel. Shoddy, it's SHODDY. It's only used when we talk about something, when something is constructed, like a building. You'd say, that building is very shoddy, or they did a lot of shoddy construction last year. It means the building was not built well, or what we say, up to code. So building codes, if it's not up to code, means it does not meet the requirement. Even with soundproofing, you cannot create a completely quiet environment. We need to step back and think about the noise we make in our own apartment and how it impacts the people below us. So I said, even with soundproofing. Soundproofing is just when you try to put material in your house to either block or absorb sound. So you can buy these things online. Some of them look like kind of styrofoam egg crates. You put them on your walls or your ceiling, and that will soundproof a room to reduce the noise. And I said, we need to step back and think about the noise. So when I say people need to step back, it doesn't necessarily mean when you physically take one step back. It means you take a second and you have to, if you're obviously, your emotions are very high when you hear noise that's bothering you. But to take a step back means to kind of stop, take a breath, and think for a little bit about what you're doing and what's happening. So, if you're making a lot of noise and your neighbors are complaining, you've got to really stop and think about what you're doing and how to improve yourself and look at the whole situation. It is impossible to cancel out all noise in your apartment. The only way to solve this is to act accordingly and try to reduce the amount of noise you produce. So I said the only way to solve this is to act accordingly. When you hear act accordingly, it means to act properly or in the situation you're in. Or we also use it, for example, dress accordingly. So if you have to go to a funeral and someone says dress accordingly, that means wear a suit. Don't wear basketball jerseys, shorts, and flip-flops. So in a situation where, we have to live with other people all around us, you kind of need to act accordingly and think about your actions if you're going to make noise or what you're doing may cause someone to get annoyed above or below you. All right, guys, thanks a lot for downloading. We appreciate it. Bye-bye.